Winning the MVP award in Major League Baseball is one of the most impressive things a player can do in their career, and winning two puts them in an exclusive club of just over 30 players. However, beyond just winning two MVP awards, there's only a handful of players who have won three or more. I'm going to go over each player who has achieved this incredible feat. Starting with Barry Bonds, the only player to win more than three MVPs, Bonds wasn't just great, he had some of the most impressive seasons in baseball history, if you can look past the steroids. Regardless of your views on him, he holds the record for the most MVP awards in MLB history with 7, and the truth is, he could have had more. Bonds' career breaks into two chapters, the all-around five-tool star in Pittsburgh and the otherworldly slugger in San Francisco whose head grew 3 sizes. In 1990, he won his first MVP at just 25 years old by doing everything. He hit .301 with 33 homers, 52 stolen bases, and Gold Glove defense. He wasn't just a slugger, he was the most complete player in the league and the best player on the division-winning Pirates team. 2 years later, he took his game to another level, hitting .311 with 34 home runs and an on-base percentage near .460. Again, the Pirates won the division, and again, Bonds led the league in WAR. Nobody else in the National League can match his combination of power, speed, and patience at the plate. Then came 1993, his first season with the Giants. He hit .336 with 46 home runs and an 1136 OPS, helping turn the 72-win team into a 103-win contender overnight. That season alone justified his record-breaking free agent deal and his third MVP. But the second half of his career is where things started to get wild. From 2001 to 2004, Bonds went on the most dominant 4-year stretch the sport has ever seen. He hit 73 home runs in 2001, setting the single-season record and putting up a ridiculous 1379 OPS. That should have been his peak, but he was not done yet. In 2002, he hit .370 with nearly 200 walks and an on-base of .582. Yeah, he was on base almost 60% of the time. The next year, in only 130 games, he still led the league in just about everything, and in 2004, at age 39, he broke the game entirely. 232 walks, a .609 on base, and the highest OPS in history at .1422. He was so feared that teams intentionally walked him 120 times that season. Yes, the steroid cloud looms over these years, and that complicates the legacy, but even if you ignore the home run records and late career resurgence, Bond had already won 3 MVPs and built a Hall of Fame resume. Steroids or not, nobody has ever dominated the MVP vote or the strike zone like Barry Bonds. Albert Pujols wasn't just great, he was one of the best hitters ever to start his career. From the moment he debuted in 2001, he was a lock for 320, 35 homers, 100 RBIs, and a top 5 MVP finish. They didn't call him the machine for nothing. By the time he finally won his first MVP in 2005, he'd already finished second 3 times because of the aforementioned Bonds. This was long overdue, and that year he hit .330 with 41 home runs, 117 RBIs, with elite plate discipline, power, defense, base running. Really gave him the edge over Andrew Jones, who hit more home runs but wasn't nearly complete as a player. Pujols was the heart of a 100-win Cardinals team and finally got the recognition he deserved. Then came 2008, where Pujols quietly put together one of the most efficient seasons of his career. He hit .357 with 37 home runs and an 1114 OPS, leading the league in slugging, on base, walks. Brian Howard had the flashier counting stats, but Pujols was the better hitter by every advanced metric, and voters took notice. In 2009, he reached his peak. Pujols hit 47 home runs, drove in 135 runs, and led the league in on-base percentage, slugging, OPS runs, total bases. He even stole 16 bases just for fun. The Cardinals won the division, and there wasn't even a serious challenger for MVP this year. He was the most dominant hitter in baseball again, and this time the numbers were just too loud to ignore. What's wild though is that these 3 MVPs barely scratched the surface of how good he was. In his first 11 seasons, Pujols finished top 5 in MVP voting 10 times. He was a hitting machine, a defensive anchor, and the steady heartbeat of the Cardinals for over a decade, and he won 2 World Series with them. Now on to his former teammate, Mike Trout. Trout didn't just dominate his era, he made dominance feel routine. From his first full season in 2012, he was the guy. Every year, without fail, Trout was putting up elite numbers in every category. Average, power, speed, defense, walks, you name it. And while he only has 3 MVPs, that number could easily be 5 or 6 if voters weren't occasionally tempted by novelty. In 2012, he arguably should have won the MVP, but lost due to Miguel Cabrera winning a Triple Crown. Even though Trout had the better underlying numbers, he finally won his first MVP in 2014 and finished second the 2 years prior. He hit .287 with 36 home runs, an AL leading 111 RBIs, helping lead the Angels to the best record in baseball. The average dipped slightly, but the power numbers and run production soared. It was Trout's most traditional MVP season, counting stats, team success, and still elite overall production. No one else in the AL matched his all-around impact that year. In 2015, he would lose this award to Josh Donaldson, but you could argue Mike Trout should have won it. In 2016, he put together what might have been the most Trout season ever. The Angels were bad, but Trout was once again on another level, batting .315, leading the league in runs, walks, on-base percentage, WAR. He had 29 homers, 30 steals, and made pitchers miserable all season long. Mookie Betts had a fantastic year in Boston, but advanced metrics told the story. Trout was just simply better and voters listened. Then came 2019, where even a shortened season couldn't stop him. Trout played just 134 games, but still at .291 with 45 home runs and a .1083 OPS. He led the league in on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS again, and posted an 8.3 WAR. Alex Bregman was the closest competitor, but Trout's stats were just too dominant. It was a masterclass in efficiency, even though he played a lot less games. Trout's 3 MVPs represented just a slice of his greatness. In his first 10 full seasons, he finished top 5 in MVP voting 9 times. He was the ultimate blend of old school tools and modern efficiency, and for a long stretch, he wasn't just the best player in baseball, he was on an all-time pace. He slowed down in the past few years, but real ones will remember the run Trout was on in the 2010s. Mickey Mantle is a legend of baseball. A switch-hitting slugger with blistering speed, elite power, and the pressure of carrying the New York Yankees during their golden era. He played with bad knees, a hard partying lifestyle, and the weight of impossible expectations, and still carved out one of the most legendary careers in baseball history. His first MVP came in 1956, and to this day it remains one of the greatest single seasons ever. Mantle hit .353 with 52 home runs, 130 RBIs, and led the league in everything from runs to on-base to slugging. He even won the Triple Crown. The Yankees ran away with the pennant, and Mantle was the undisputed star of the show. Then came 57, and even though his numbers dipped slightly, he still led the league in on-base percentage and walks, hit .365, which was even better than the previous year, and posted a higher OPS than the year before. What made this MVP fascinating was that he didn't rely solely on power. He adjusted, he became more patient, more selective, and still terrifying. Ted Williams in his age 38 season batted .388 and had a higher OPS, but voters leaned towards Mantle's all-around game, younger legs, and team success. Mantle's third MVP came in 1962 after battling injuries and inconsistency in the early 60s, but that season he reminded everyone who he was. He hit .321 with 30 homers, a .486 on base, and a .605 slugging percentage, all while helping lead the Yankees to yet another World Series. Even though he only played 123 games, his presence was so impactful that he still won MVP over players with fuller seasons. That's just how great he was. Even in a partial year, Mantle was just better than a full year of most players. Mickey Mantle could have won more MVPs, but lost a couple due to his teammate Roger Maris, and to learn more about that, I highly recommend the movie 61. Before Mantle and Mays, there was Jimmie Foxx. Known as Double X, or sometimes just the Beast, Foxx was a big slugger who looked like he could have played football as a linebacker, but instead he spent 2 decades smashing baseballs with effortless power. His first MVP came in 1932 with the Philadelphia Athletics, when he was just 24 years old. That year he hit .364, led the American League in home runs with 58, RBIs with 169, and slugging with a ridiculous 749. And here's the kicker, he almost tied Babe Ruth's single-season home run record of 60, and this was before anyone had accused the ball of being juiced. He missed it by just 2. The following year in 1933, he went out and did it again. He won the Triple Crown, batting .356 with 48 home runs and 163 RBIs. This time, the MVP vote was easy. He led the league in total bases, slugging, and walks, and back then there was no postseason award show, no highlight reels, just the box score, and every day Foxx filled it up. By the time he won his third MVP in 1938, he was playing for the Boston Red Sox and still mashing. He hit .349, crushed 50 homers, and drove in 175 runs. Those are just insane numbers, even by today's standards, and what makes it even more impressive is that this wasn't even considered his best season, just another year where he casually put up video game numbers. Foxx finished his career with 534 home runs, second only to Babe Ruth at the time, and remains one of the youngest players to ever reach 500. Next up we have Yogi Berra. Yogi was one of the most impactful players of his generation, a 5'7" catcher with a whole list of iconic quotes like "it's getting late early" or "it's like deja vu all over again." Yogi played 18 seasons with the Yankees and also played a few games with the Mets, which you may not have known. He went to 14 World Series and won 10 of them, the most championships by any player in MLB history. And at the heart of the dynasty was Yogi, behind the plate, controlling the game, calling pitches, and delivering in clutch moments. His first MVP came in 1951, at a time when Joe DiMaggio was retiring and a young Mickey Mantle was just arriving. Berra hit .294 with 27 homers and 88 RBIs, but more importantly, he was the leader of a Yankees team that won 98 games and the World Series. In a clubhouse full of stars and rising egos, Yogi was the rock-solid core. Then came 1954, arguably his most complete season. He hit .307 with 22 homers, 125 RBIs, and struck out just 28 times in over 600 plate appearances. That kind of contact ability from anyone at any point in baseball history was rare, but looking back on it in 2025, it's just ridiculous. And keep in mind he did this as a catcher. The Yankees won 103 games, but actually didn't make the World Series, finishing behind an incredible Cleveland team. But voters recognized how valuable Berra was. Behind the plate, he worked seamlessly with the Yankees pitching staff and still played nearly every day, a grind that most catchers couldn't even dream of sustaining. In 1955, he went right back at it. Another .272 average, 27 homers, and 108 RBIs. Another World Series appearance, another MVP, and once again, it wasn't just about the stats, it was about leadership, clutch hitting, and consistency at the most physically demanding position in the sport. Berra's career numbers won't jump off the page like Mantle's or Fox's, but his impact can't be overstated. He was a catcher who played nearly every day, hit in the middle of the order, kept elite pitching staffs in check, and quietly led the most dominant team of the 20th century. And he also did this while being one of the greatest personalities in baseball history. When you talk about the integration era of Major League Baseball, Jackie Robinson is rightfully the face of the movement, but Roy Campanella was every bit as important to the success of the Brooklyn Dodgers and one of the best catchers to ever put on the gear. Campanella was short and stocky, but had a lot of power. He debuted with the Dodgers in 1948, just a year after Robinson broke the color barrier, and by 1951, he was already dominating the league. That year, he won his first MVP by hitting .325 with 33 homers and 108 RBIs. Once again, like with Yogi Berra, this was as a catcher. Keep in mind, this was the early 50s, and it was not exactly a hitter-friendly era, especially not for someone crouching behind the plate every day. He threw out runners, handled a complex pitching staff, and provided elite power in the middle of a loaded Dodgers lineup. It was the kind of season that turned heads, not just for the numbers, but for the way he seemed to will the team forward. His second MVP came in 1953, and this time he went nuclear. He hit .312, blasted 41 home runs, and drove in an astounding 142 runs, and those were both career highs. He led the league in RBIs, finished top 5 in slugging and OPS, and helped lead the Dodgers to 105 wins. This was peak Brooklyn with Jackie Robinson, Pee Wee Reese, Duke Snider, Gil Hodges, and Campy right in the middle, powering the offense and guiding the staff. Then came 1955, a year that will forever be remembered in Brooklyn baseball lore. The Dodgers finally beat the Yankees and won their first and only World Series before the team moved to Los Angeles. Campanella won his third MVP that season, hitting .318 with 32 homers and 107 RBIs. Once again, he led from behind the plate, managing young pitchers and coming up clutch in big moments. Sadly, Campy's story took a tragic turn just a few years later. In 1958, a car accident left him paralyzed from the shoulders down, ending his playing career at just 36 years old. He never got the chance to pad his numbers or chase the kind of long-term records other greats did, but in his prime, which spanned less than a decade, he was arguably the best catcher in the game. 3 MVPs, 11 All-Star selections, a World Series ring, and a legacy that lives on both as a baseball icon and symbol of perseverance. We've thrown around words like legendary, dominant, and once in a generation already in this video, but with Shohei Ohtani, none of those quite do him justice. He isn't just unique for his era, he's breaking baseball as we know it, and you probably know this if you're watching a baseball video. In his career, he's been a full-time pitcher and a full-time slugger, and not just decent at both, he's been elite at both. Nobody, not even Babe Ruth, has done what Ohtani is doing in the modern game, and that's not hyperbole. The only active player on this list, Ohtani's first MVP came in 2021, and if you watch baseball that summer, you remember the run he was on. He hit 46 home runs, stole 26 bags, and posted a .965 OPS, all while starting 23 games as a pitcher and striking out 156 batters in 130 innings. He wasn't just good, he was historic. Nobody had ever hit like a cleanup hitter and pitched like a number 2 starter in the same season, and it wasn't a gimmick. He was legitimately among the best in the league at both. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a monster offensive season in 2021 and easily would have won MVP in a normal year, but voters didn't hesitate. In 2022, he would have won the MVP again if not for Aaron Judge having one of the best seasons in baseball history at the same time. Even with that, people like Ben Verlander still swore Ohtani deserved it, which I don't think he did. However, in 2023, I think everyone agrees that he deserved it. Ohtani led the American League in home runs with 44, posted a career-high 1066 OPS, and was virtually unpitchable at the plate. On the mound, he went 10-5 with a 3.14 ERA and 167 strikeouts in just 132 innings. Again, elite two-way numbers, but this was an even more refined bat. Unfortunately, his pitching season ended early due to elbow trouble, but even in 135 games, he had more WAR than anyone in the league. That's how dominant he was when he won the MVP unanimously. Then came 2024, and with it, a change in league. Shohei signed with the Dodgers, and due to his injury recovery, didn't pitch at all that year. But it didn't matter. His bat alone was MVP worthy. He hit .332 with 45 homers and 114 RBIs, and led the National League in OPS, total bases, and WAR. And remember, this was as a DH. There were strong seasons from players like Matt Olson, Mookie Betts, Francisco Lindor, but Ohtani's bat was simply too much. The fact that he won an MVP in both leagues in back-to-back years while being a two-way player in one and a DH in the other, which by the way was the first time a primary DH ever won the award, was just insane. He also won the World Series with the Dodgers that year to cap off that MVP season. And here's the wild part, he's really still getting started. In 2025, Ohtani is having another great season and has started to pitch again. There's a very good chance Ohtani will take home his 4th MVP award, putting him alone at 2nd all-time for most MVP awards. Few players in baseball history have ever arrived with more hype than Alex Rodriguez, and in the early years, he lived up to every ounce of it. A 40-40 shortstop by his early 20s, a defensive whiz, and a generational slugger. A-Rod was baseball's golden boy, and that is until he wasn't. His career and his MVP legacy is a constant tension between undeniable greatness and off-the-field noise. PED suspensions, controversies, feuds, they all cloud his great career. But take away all that and you're still left with one of the most complete players the game has ever seen. His first MVP came in 2003 while playing for the last place Texas Rangers. That alone makes it a weird one, but A-Rod earned it. He led the league in home runs with 47, runs scored with 124, total bases and slugging. He drove in 118 runs and played a strong defensive shortstop. Despite the Rangers being irrelevant in the standings, A-Rod was so dominant that voters just couldn't look away. Carlos Delgado and Jorge Posada had excellent years on playoff teams, but A-Rod was just too good. It was rare at the time for someone to win MVP on a last place team, but it was even rarer for someone to lead nearly every major offensive category from the shortstop position. After being traded to the Yankees and shifting to third base, A-Rod took some time to settle in, but by 2005 he was in full control again. That season he hit .321 with 48 homers, 130 RBIs, and led the American League in OPS and runs scored. He also stole 21 bases for good measure, and this was A-Rod at his most balanced, hitting for average, hitting for power, playing every day, and putting up huge numbers on a contending team. David Ortiz was his biggest competition, but he was a DH, and A-Rod was putting up nearly identical offensive numbers while playing every inning at third base. That mattered to voters, and he helped the Yankees win the AL East, and his season was nothing short of complete domination. Then came 2007. Arguably the peak of his career, A-Rod hit .314 with 54 homers, 156 RBIs, which is just crazy, 143 runs, and a staggering 1067 OPS. It was an MVP campaign that felt like an MVP campaign. He started hot and just never let up. Every night felt like a highlight reel. He was the best player in the Yankees by a mile and put up numbers that hadn't been seen since peak Bonds. This time there was no controversy in the voting. He got 26 of 28 first place votes. It was the third MVP of his career and his last great season before things unraveled, before the PED admissions, suspensions, public scrutiny, injuries. After this, A-Rod's reputation took a beating. But on the field, the numbers don't lie. Over 3,000 hits, nearly 700 home runs, 3 MVPs. A-Rod's legacy is complicated, but his talent never was. If you're building the perfect third baseman from scratch, it probably looks a lot like Mike Schmidt. Standing at 6'2" with a smooth right-handed swing, a cannon arm, and a gold glove defense, Schmidt was the rare player who could change the game on both sides of the ball. His first MVP came in 1980, the same year he helped lead the Phillies to their first World Series title in franchise history. That year he crushed 48 homers, which was the most in baseball, with 121 runs batted in and a .624 slugging percentage. He also won a gold glove at third base because he was just as valuable with the glove as he was with the bat. This wasn't just the best season of his career, it was one of the greatest single seasons ever by a third baseman. The Phillies were a team that had come so close for years and Schmidt pushed them over the top. Then came 1981, a strike-shortened season, but it didn't slow him down. Schmidt hit .316, a career high with 31 home runs in just 102 games. That put him on pace for nearly 50 home runs over a full year. He led the league in slugging, on-base percentage, and OPS, and even though it was a weird fractured season, there was no doubt who the MVP was. He carried the Phillies to another division title. By 1986, Schmidt was 36 years old, but still playing like a man in his prime. He hit .290 with 37 homers, 119 RBIs, and once again led the National League in home runs, walks, and OPS. He also won his 10th Gold Glove because even late in his career, he was still the best defender at the hot corner. The Phillies didn't make the postseason that year, but Schmidt's individual brilliance shone through. It was his third MVP and the final statement that he wasn't just the best third baseman of his generation, that he was the best third baseman the game had just ever seen. He finished his career with 548 homers, all with the Phillies, 10 Gold Gloves, 6 Silver Sluggers, 3 MVPs, and a legacy built not just on numbers, but showing up every day and being the best version of himself for 18 seasons. Stan the Man Musial became the face of the St. Louis Cardinals for over 2 decades, and when it came to career excellence, very few players in any era can match what he did. Musial had a hunched-over stance that looked awkward, but somehow worked, and the results, well, they speak for themselves. 3,630 hits, 475 home runs, 7 batting titles, and 3 MVP awards. His first MVP came in 1943 when he was just 22 years old. He hit .357, led the NL in hits, doubles, triples, and total bases, and carried the Cardinals to 105 wins. This wasn't during an easy time, it was the heart of World War II, and many stars were leaving the game for military service. He was just getting started, and he stood out as a beacon of excellence during baseball's most uncertain years. After serving in the Navy during 1945, he returned to the game like he never missed a beat. 1946, Musial hit .365, led the league in home runs, led the league in runs, hits, doubles, triples, slugging, and OPS, and won his second MVP. He helped the Cardinals win the pennant and go on to win the World Series that year, and made it clear that his game was just as sharp as ever. Then came 1948, and many believe this was peak Stan the Man. He hit .376 with 39 home runs, 131 RBIs, and an absurd 1152 OPS. He He led the league in everything again: batting average, on base percentage, slugging, runs, hits, total bases. It's honestly easier to list what he didn't lead the league in. It was one of the best offensive seasons in MLB history, and yet it's somehow not talked about enough. That was kind of what he did. He did everything right, quietly, and let the numbers speak for themselves. Said Musial never had the flash of Mantle, the power of Bonds, or the controversy of A-Rod. He just showed up, hit line drives, and made the Cardinals contenders year after year. He had 24 All-Star appearances, which is up there for the most of all time, and he spent every single one of his 22 seasons in St. Louis. And yes, that is correct. He was a 24-time All-Star in 22 seasons. He was a war hero, a Hall of Famer, and a giant of the game. And his 3 MVPs were just the formal recognition of what Cardinals fans already knew, that he was an all-time great. And also, fun fact, he's not the only left-handed hitter in the Hall of Fame from Donora, Pennsylvania. Comment if you know who else is. And finally, we have Joe DiMaggio. Known as the Yankees Clipper, DiMaggio was grace and power in one seamless package. From the moment he stepped onto the field in 1936, he was something else. A man who made the impossible look effortless. He won 3 MVPs in an era full of legends like Ted Williams, Hank Greenberg, Bob Feller, and he did it while playing under the biggest spotlight in American sports. His first MVP came in 1939 at just 24 years old. That season he hit .381, yes, .381, with 30 homers, 126 RBIs, and a .671 slugging percentage. He led the league in batting average and slugging while anchoring a Yankees team that won 106 games and swept the World Series. And here's the kicker, he did that despite missing the first month of the season with a foot injury. Once he returned, he was the best player in baseball, and he never looked back. Then came 1941, a year that lives in baseball immortality. This was the year of the 56-game hitting streak, a record so untouchable it hasn't been close to being broken. DiMaggio hit safely in 56 straight games, breaking the old record by 11 games and becoming a national phenomenon. That season he hit .357 with 30 homers, 125 RBIs, and struck out just 13 times in 622 plate appearances. Let that sink in, 13 strikeouts. I'm pretty sure Joey Gallo had 13 strikeouts in a 3-game span, multiple times. Ted Williams incredibly hit .406 that year, the last time anyone had done so, but DiMaggio's historic streak, his consistency, and the Yankees' runaway pennant win gave him the edge in MVP voting, but you can definitely argue that Ted Williams did deserve it. His final MVP came in 1947 after returning from military service in World War II and proving once again that greatness doesn't fade. 32 years old, DiMaggio hit .315 with 20 homers, 97 RBIs, and led the Yankees to another World Series title. Wasn't his flashiest season statistically, but voters recognized what he meant to the team and to the game. DiMaggio's career was shorter than it possibly could have been because he retired at 36 years old, famously saying he can no longer play at Joe DiMaggio level. But in those 13 seasons, he made 13 All-Star teams, won 9 World Series titles, and became the embodiment of Yankee excellence. His swing was pure, his stride was smooth, and his legend only grew as the years went by. Even off the field, he was an American icon. From his military service and his marriage to Marilyn Monroe, Joltin' Joe will always be a legend. And that's all 12 players to win 3 MVPs. With Aaron Judge having another historic season this year and already having one too, it's entirely possible that he'll join this exclusive club if he comes back from injury strong. At the time of writing, Judge just came back a couple days ago and has been in a slump for a month. Cal Raleigh is on a crazy run, hitting over 40 home runs before August, so it's certainly not a runaway. Will Judge become the next player to win his 3rd MVP? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe, check out my other content, and let me know your favorite player that won an MVP. Thank you for watching Baseball Domain, and I'll see you next time.